Hi, LinkedIn community. We're going live today with Andrea, my dear friend Andrea. We met such a long time ago. This is a really awesome topic. Again, on the Bad Boss show, we discuss different topics and where do leaders fail? Where are they becoming bad bosses? And sometimes not intentionally, but because of the lack of training, lack of education, lack of leadership development. So, my guest, Andrea, today is a globally experienced executive and leadership coach. She has 20 years of experience as an HR and coaching professional and supports leaders and organizations in becoming more inclusive and effective by enhancing their leadership skills and cultural awareness. Welcome, Andrea.
Hey, thank you, Anya, for having me. I'm so excited. I'm seeing how you are expanding your work in so many ways. So I'm so excited to have this chat with you here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing because I always invite a lot of people because, again, I love diverse perspectives. I love the way you see things. And global leadership is a big topic right now because, first of all, we're
Mhm.
hiring people in the hybrid environment. I see more and more leaders have access to talent all over the world. Now we don't have to limit ourselves that if I'm in Michigan, I only hire in Michigan, right? And there are
Right.
a lot of states like California where talent is really expensive. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
be creative and hire people from either other states or out of country. So I feel like global leadership is now such an important topic. How do we help right leaders to be more inclusive, to get to know their diverse talent? So let's start with that. How do you define global leadership?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. And I think we need to go a little bit to understanding this global because, as we
Mhm.
were talking before, there is so many organizations, as you said, like to expand across the borders. They are working globally, make having business between US, North America, or Europe, Asia, etc. But the global leadership is where the leaders are really intentional, aware of this diverse perspective of being global
Yeah.
that we see so many times in global companies and could be like if we look even in a small scale, like even American companies, American culture, how a Michigan could be different than Texas or California in terms of mindset, way of living, culture in general,
Wages.
right?
Wages.
Exactly, exactly. Big thing here. So the global leader is having this awareness that if I'm working with leaders from all around the globe, like if I have a multicultural team, it's because I want my team to have this diverse perspective, like really enhancing the team potential because there is this diverse perspective, and not just because they all need to follow like my way or highway.
My way of doing things. And I love that. And especially
Yeah.
in the US, there is a certain way of doing things. The dominant identity would be type A, extroverted,
Mm-hmm.
loud, we get shit done, we work a lot. I moved here from Canada and I have never, ever experienced such a hardworking culture as it is in America.
Mm-hmm.
Never. Like my wife and I went to Sweden and Finland and Northern Europe, and everybody's done by 3:30. They're sitting at a coffee shops, they're having their cinnamon buns, they're chatting, they're socializing. That would never happen in the US. Like I get emails at 6 and 7 p.m. So we're a culture of workaholics. And I think what
Yeah.
happens is we demand that from other people. We say, if you want to work for our global company that is based on our right idea of work culture, you have to assimilate and you have to do things the way we do it here.
Yes, culture is also depending of the perspective that we look at. Okay, like if we think about a scale, is all where you are looking to others. So, in your perspective as Canadian, let's say, when you were in Toronto, from your experience coming to US, you were seeing US more workaholic than Canadian. But for example, looking this idea of timing, now uh, work time that the people work, now how long people work, how workaholic a culture is. If you compare, like for example, some Asian cultures, even though they are very relationship,
Based,
but
yeah.
they work a lot of hours. So comparing with Americans, the American would say that, I don't know, even like I lived in Italy for 12 years, and Italy, France, or even Spain, they used to, people stay a long hours at work. So it's a different perspective depending of how you look at, but it's true. So this type A American, like stereotype of energetic, let's do it, assertive, and is not the same level of successful person in other cultures. Now, for example, coaches that is more what we call relationship based, that could be also, again, south of Europe, Spain, France, or Italy, or Asian, or South America. People stay more longer in the office because they are more relationship
They're
based
socializing, they're not working.
in American way. In American scene, look how interesting this is. The American are seeing that they are socializing, they are not working. But in their own perspective, the social time is work time.
Building relationships.
Most because most of the business happen in the stables, in coffees, lunches, dinners. So this is the difference also how cultures build trust. So American, let's say, task oriented, build trust in reliability. So I trust you, and if you are on time, if you do the job, if you are good in what you do. Relationship cultures, I trust you if I know you. So there is a thing that we say in cross culture that in, let's say, Americans, but in task oriented culture, first I go to the business, I talk about business, and then the relationship can come eventually. In relationship based culture, first I build the relationship, and then the business can come eventually. Because if I don't know if I can trust you, I cannot build a business.
Yeah.
So with this global leader that we are talking about is the one who understands this difference, because a lot of business, so many stories in books from my client that the business were not successful because, let's say, the American did accept the dinner invitation or vice versa.
Yeah. Oh, I love this differentiator that there's like a task-based culture and results-oriented or relationship-based. And it's so interesting that, yeah, when I think of networking events, and I'm part of a lot of different networking groups, they're all built on trust. And these groups will tell you, do not expect any referrals for the first couple of years. Not 3 months,
Okay.
not 2 weeks, a couple of years. That's how long it takes people to get to know. Can I trust you? Do I like you? Are you an expert? Can I trust you with my clients? So we do that outside of our business. We believe in that model when it comes, let's say, to referrals. But when we are in
Mhm.
our own business, I would often ask my clients that are coaching clients, how much one-on-one time do you spend with your people? I don't.
Exactly.
When was the last time you took someone out for lunch? Do you know what's happening in their personal life? Yeah, we talk about like, what did you do on the weekend? And it's like a one sentence response, but that's not relationship building, right? So I've never thought of it, but now that you're speaking, I'm like, wow, it's so we believe in it in some format, but not in other.
Yeah, and I had also experience like even no, American clients, not related with cross cultural here, but the leader was putting a team member in performance development, or in one I was like letting this person go, like really firing the person. And in that moment of conversation, like I need to have this hard conversation because this person is not performing, is not doing
Mhm.
well, blah, blah, blah. The leader knew that there was something going on with this person's life. Like, oh, and then there was this, oh, I should have talked with this person earlier. I should have known this before. That, I don't
Yeah.
know, could be like this guy was, he needs to wake up super early to help the family, or other one is we're moving to out of state. Things happen in people's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally, and I think that brings us to a nice next chapter of. I like to talk. So the bad boss would say, "Okay, I have an Italian on my team. How do I best manage Italians?" Or I have a
Oh
Brazilian
yeah.
team. How do I best manage Brazil? What does a good boss do?
Yeah. So can we go to the bad boss do first?
Yeah, let's do the bad boss. It's like it's stereotyping. It's playing into those
Yeah.
stereotypes. Yep.
Yeah. So the bad boss is stereotyping. So is this labeling, like, or even this jokes, oh, you are, let's say, the typical Brazilian, or things that I hear so many times. Oh, you don't even look like Brazilian. Oh, is sometimes I heard, one time I heard, um, oh, but it's missing your dark skin, like,
Because here's
so
my
you hear,
yeah, here's
yeah,
my
so
image.
at that, exactly. So people see like this stereotype of and play with that, make jokes. And today, thankfully, not just today, but nowadays, now with this awareness of DNI, we can call this unconscious bias, or no, and being more aware of these topics. But when we stereotype, we're kind of like putting people in box, and we don't see the person as he or she is and their own full potential.
Yeah.
So you were seeing just by your assumption, now where you were thinking, or maybe even your previous experience, like, oh, I've worked with, I don't know, Germans, Italians, or whatever, English, could be whatever. And you take that previous experience as your own truth, not seeing the person in front of me.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, what the good leaders will do is really seeing the person. Now, this is what I'm so passionate about with my clients. Now, when we work on ourselves, when the leader discover his own potential, they are able to listen more and recognize that inside of each
The
one of these
potential of others.
persons,
Mhm.
there is a person with a story, strengths, skills, background. So really it's about to
Yeah.
removing labels and seeing the person as they are.
It's interesting because they we pride ourselves, right, in saying we have cultural competence, and this is where it gets
Mm,
tricky, right? Because if I'm culturally competent, I know enough about your religion, I know enough about your culture, I know enough about maybe how you were raised and what's good. But then I am kind of tipping on that dangerous part where it's like, well, now I'm going to stereotype you. So how do
yeah.
we, like, what is this balance of knowing your culture, because I want to be intelligent and educated and sensitive, right? That your upbringing was different from mine, and but not put you in a box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's very delicate as well. First of all, when we talk about cultural differences and so many things now in life in general, we talk about generally speaking. So
Yeah,
it's not about all people are like this,
yeah,
like saying, oh,
yeah.
I don't
All
know,
Canadians
all
are like,
Americans, yeah, all Canadian eyes, or all Americans eat hamburger, or whatever it is. We are talking about the majority of people. Now, most part like doing like this. So then, of course, if you look to the individual, no, like myself, like you, that we have kind of like a similar background. Yes, we are from a specific place, the place
yeah,
that we were born, but it doesn't mean that this is our only identity because
exactly.
we lived in different places, we have different personal experience, and even with so many, so it's like the onions layers, right? So yes, there is this cultural, but then there is the how we were raised, the maybe the even college education, personality, and so many things.
Dimensions, I
So
call it dimensions of our identity. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So the importance of the cultural awareness is to give you the broader picture of, okay, I'm working in a French company. How is the French culture? Is more hierarchical, so I need to maybe be more formal in my emails, use the last name instead of the first name, like in America. So I know the big picture of the culture, but when I look into the individual, I need to see the person, not
Yes.
just one way.
Yeah, I love that. So I noticed we're at 17 minutes, but I do have one more question for you as an expert in this global leadership, inclusive leadership, is around communication. As I said,
Hmm.
often when I come to work with clients, there has been a lot of conflicts or even workplace investigations, or someone was accused, right, of being insensitive or wrongful termination or maybe racism. So what tips do you have for leaders that do have diverse talent when it comes to communication? I don't know if you have a couple of, maybe, like, what's the advice you have?
As we were saying, communication is such a broader
Yeah,
topic and so
so,
many things to say about it. What is most common? I know that this is thing that we is being the top of mind in leadership nowadays. But one thing that would say is empathy.
yes,
Sometimes leaders are so busy in their to-dos, in what is now in the only way to say things, and not seeing what is about in the other side.
yeah.
So connecting with this, again, this human to human in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That's next to you, the person that you are, I don't know, blaming, or the person that you are, for some reason, having this hard conversation is another person. And again, with other cultural background, maybe different than you.
Yeah.
So the empathy comes now with a good listen to less now coming up to going to the conversation with more open mind and open heart, right? There is
Yeah.
uh, one of the authors that I love, Fred Kaufman, in The Conscious Business. He talks about how to have a hard conversation. So he's uh, now this is thing that I work a lot with my clients. The first time in a, let's say, hard conversation is listening without interrupting. Just come into the conversation. Like when a conflict happened, I use my hands a lot to express myself. People go in this way, right? This is my way, this is your way. And this is where we crash. We see in
Yeah.
wars, and even at families. But when we come to the conversation with open heart, just open to listen, the person immediately will feel that openness and will be open to listen your perspective as well.
Mhm.
Then where we can have this more alignment because there is more openness. So the empathy comes here in the number one with listening and understanding now what is behind the each person's story.
Totally. And I think a big part of it is for leaders, I always say in our trainings, it's check your assumptions. Like just get
Yes,
curious about assumptions. Like the story I make up is blah blah blah. Every time Andrea doesn't send me
exactly.
an email on Friday, that means blah blah blah. Where am I biased? Where am I, labeling people? And I think that is the internal work you're talking about before we go to the global market, right? How did I grow up and what stories did I make up about people, about work, about see, even I do this work all the time, and you caught me saying, yeah, when they're socializing, that means they're not working, versus like that is
Mm-hmm.
working. That's a different way of
Yeah,
working. And I
yeah,
know that, but it's like that's what you say. And someone else who would have heard that would say, oh, I would never work for Anya. Like she doesn't
yes,
see social as work. Work is
exactly.
the computer. Work is like you executing on your tasks. So thank you. This was super valuable. And it's so funny. Yesterday I actually watched a movie and it was about energetic fields and how
Ah,
to name everything, right? It's like there's atoms and there's energy and we give it a name. And the way it resonates with me in our conversation that the moment, the second we put any matter into a label or a box, we rob them of their potential of what they could be.
yeah, that's
Right? So
it.
this could be anything, but now it has a name. It's a glass, right?
Yes,
And all it can be ever is a
yeah,
glass. It can never be a tree. It can never be anything else. So I was like, oh, it's so powerful because, yeah, once
yeah,
you label something, it becomes that thing and nothing
yeah.
else.
So the invitation is really to open up to perspectives,
Yeah.
like you said, like I have mine here, right?
Mhm.
Like if you look even the half empty and the half full, this could be different for everyone.
Yeah.
We can see the way we want, but be curious how is this would look like for the same. I usually start my cultural training. I know that we are on time, but very quickly showing a picture, an image, and I ask people to describe this. And it's so interesting that there are so many things, like it's a man and a woman doing kind of like a movement. And someone says, I think the guy has a gun. Oh, I think they want to hold each other. I
I think
think
they're
they are
lovers.
dancing. Yeah, exactly. So this is perspective. This is about understanding the other side without judgment. So this is global leadership.
Yeah, and for global leaders who are listening, anytime you work with other companies, just how much time do they spend on marketing and products, right? If we're going into a new market with the product, we're going to do so much market research, but we don't do
Yep.
that about people. So maybe an invitation is you're not just hiring bodies, you're also like hiring people, human beings with their stories. And how do we it's not my way or your way. We talked about that assimilation, but is there a third way and a fourth way,
Yes.
10th way
Yes.
of doing things? And yeah, I think like for me, I always go back to curiosity. Like when you get
Yes.
curious, you're like,
Totally.
oh, I never saw it that way, Andrea. Like, so today, like, thank you so much for sharing because I've learned something new about myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought of it this way. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for
Thank you. That was so fun. Thank you for
And if
having
you
me.
guys are hiring global talent or thinking of going into different markets or just curious to explore your own assumptions and bias, Andrea would be a fantastic coach to work with
Thank you.
and help you be more of an inclusive leader. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Anya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone.
You.